everyone, and thanks for joining me in the first of my MCU rewatch and review series. Throughout the series, I will be rewatching and reviewing the MCU films in order of release and grading each of them out of a total score of 20. Today, I will be focusing on 2008's Iron Man, directed by Jon Favreau and starring Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, Gwyneth Paltrow as Pepper Potts, Jeff Bridges as Obadiah Stane, and Terrence Howard as James Rhodes. Before I get into the review, I want to quickly break down how I will be reviewing all the films in this series. I have decided to focus on 4 elements of the film, each of which I will score out of 5 in order to total up a final film score out of 20. The 4 elements I will be focusing on are the hero, the villain, the visuals, and the sound, as I feel these are the key elements that influence a viewing experience. With all that being explained, let's get into the review. In Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark cannot be considered a hero at the beginning of the film due to his selfish and egotistical ways. We first see him as this smart yet immature playboy with no care in the world, unknowingly manufacturing weapons for terrorists, which again shows how he only cares for himself rather than the impact his work has on others. When Tony is almost killed by terrorist organisation, the Ten Rings, his life is completely turned around, and not only for the time he spends in the cave, but for the rest of his life to come. Tony's arc is such a great one in this film because we see him completely change his outlook on life after he realises his intelligence and knowledge of technology should and will be used for helping people rather than selfish gain. Jon Favreau manages to make Tony's life change believable by spending a large portion of the movie following Tony suffering and reflecting in the cave with Yinsen. Despite lacking action until Tony finally escapes, the cave scenes are some of the best, showing us the emotional side of Tony and positioning him as the underdog in the situation, which naturally makes us as the audience root for him. Robert Downey Jr. also embraces and makes the role his own, expertly pulling off the playboy genius millionaire philanthropist, and later the man who feels the weight of the world now lies on his shoulders. By the time we reach the conclusion of the film, Tony is a changed man, but never fully abandons his ways, again making his arc more believable. Stark still likes attention and craves appreciation for his acts, as we see in the spectacular and long-lived line,
I am Iron Man.
Even after countless origin movies of superheroes, I still feel this is one of the best we have seen so far in films, and in particular the MCU. Overall, I am not a huge Iron Man fan, but rewatching this film really made me realise Tony is much more of a complex character than his sarcastic manner would have you believe. For that reason, I'm going to rank this film a 5 out of 5 for the hero. Jeff Bridges plays the villain of the film, Obadiah Stane, who later becomes the Ironmonger. Like many of the Phase 1 MCU films, the villain doesn't have an extremely intriguing arc throughout the film, as Tony fighting his own demons is the main focus. However, that is not to say that Obadiah is a terrible villain, but rather just one whose motivations you can't get behind because he is truly evil for the sake of making money and self-gain. Additionally, at the end of the film, Stane becomes a carbon copy of Iron Man, which is not all that interesting to watch, as it is just 2 men in machines flying around and shooting at one another. There are some positives to the way Stane is written and performed. For example, I personally didn't guess he was working with the Ten Rings in this film and was quite shocked by the revelation. Additionally, Bridges is able to make the character seem extremely menacing, which surprised me, as in films such as The Big Lebowski, he is the complete opposite.
I'm the dude, so that's what you call me, you know?
One scene in particular that really had me on the edge of my seat is when Pepper Potts is gathering information from Stane's computer and he almost catches her. The positioning of Stane with his eyeline in the upper third in comparison to Pepper's in the middle to lower third, as well as him being on the dominant side of the frame, helps establish the threat and power of the character. Overall, I think Stane fits the film well and does what he needs to in order to move the plot forward, but character-wise, he doesn't have great development, and for that reason, I'm going to rate the villain a 2 out of 5 for this film. Not many of the MCU films are well known for their cinematography. However, I feel Iron Man uses camera angles and character positioning well throughout the film in order to establish the power level of the characters we see in the scenes. For example, when Yinsen is dying, low angles are used to look up on Tony, who is also positioned on the left of Yinsen. The left being the dominant side of the screen, used alongside the slight low angle looking up at Tony, really emphasises that Yinsen is in a weakened state, whereas Tony is just establishing his power in the suit. Matthew Libatique, the cinematographer of the film, also uses over-the-shoulder reverse shots, allowing both Yinsen and Tony's faces to be in sharp focus, detailing the emotional goodbye between the two men. As mentioned in my previous segment, Libatique positions Obadiah Stane on the left of the frame when interacting with Pepper, as this is the dominant side, again reinforcing his dominance over Pepper in the scene. The film also uses contrasting lighting in the film to set the tone of the scenes we are watching. An example of this is how low-key lighting and a cold colour palette is used during the cave scene, reflecting the dreary and hopeless odds the two men face. The end battle with Stain also takes place at night, again utilising low-key lighting to portray the dark nature of the scene as two men who were once friends battle viciously. In comparison, we often see well-lit fight scenes that take place during the day, showing that Iron Man fighting back against the terrorists is a positive thing. The colour palette in these scenes is also very cool, but that works reinforcing the harsh environments terrorist groups work in. Now, the action in the film is also enjoyable, with a range of angles and shot types being used, making both Iron Man's ranged attacks and closer encounters visually dynamic. The backward tracking shot in Tony's first outing as Iron Man is extremely memorable and almost seems slow motion, glorifying Tony and his heroic acts. On the negative side of the visuals, majority of the action tends to be large explosions and shooting beams due to Tony Stark's powers being all suit-based, which can become repetitive on occasions. But it is hard to fault the film for this, as we know Tony Stark is not and never will be a hand-to-hand combatant, so can't really expect to see it in the film. Overall, I liked the camera work and lighting in this movie a lot, but I do see there is room for some improvement, and for that reason I give it a 3 out of 5 for the visuals. Finally, we have the score of the film. In my opinion, Iron Man has one of the best and more memorable scores of all the MCU films, with Iron Man's signature song, Shoot to Thrill, performed by AC/DC, being a recurring track throughout the Iron Man trilogy. The song flawlessly reflects Tony's upbeat and showy personality, with the words "shoot to thrill" summing up the thrill Tony gets from appreciation and his heroic spotlight fame. Shoot to Thrill also acts as Iron Man's main theme through this and future MCU films, always letting the audience know when the genius playboy millionaire philanthropist has arrived. The score combines a range of genres, such as jazz in the casino scene and rock music used when Tony attends events and works on his armours. The score also has somber tones throughout in necessary moments, such as during the cave scene, which also implements small hints of Asian music, suggesting the Afghanistan location where Tony is held captive. In conclusion, the music doesn't play a huge role in the film, but rather just backs the characters and action scenes we see throughout. It isn't perfect, but it is memorable, and for that reason, I'm going to give the soundtrack of this film a 4 out of 5. So, to sum up the whole review, Iron Man is an exceptional film and definitely one of the best MCU origin stories, especially when looking at the 4 key elements. To make this an almost perfect film, I would just make a few tweaks to the main villain and his motivations to make him a more relatable character. But with that small adjustment aside, the film did extremely well, coming in with a total score of 14 out of 20. So that's going to wrap up this review of Iron Man. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I would love to hear some of your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, please like this video and consider subscribing to my channel for more content like this. I hope to catch you all in the next one, and thanks for joining me again. See you later, guys.